You don't know Flack. You don't know Flack.
Welcome to You Don't Know Flack, a podcast full of stories about retro gaming, retro computing, video games, arcade games, and technology from a guy who was there and still is. My name is Rob O'Hara, but for the next 30 minutes, you can call me Flack.
Episode 158. Tornadoes.
Greetings and salutations, listeners, and welcome to another episode of You Don't Know Flack. Today is April 2nd, 2015, and I am your host, Rob Flack O'Hara. On today's episode of You Don't Know Flack, we will be talking about tornadoes. But before we get started talking about those terrible twisters, let's go ahead and load the podcast in from my trusty Commodore 64, and while that's loading, that will give us a couple of minutes here to chat during what I like to call loading time.
Loading time. Loading time. Loading time.
Well, hello everybody and welcome back. This is not what I had planned for episode 158. I actually had something planned that had to do with arcade games, but that plan got delayed, unfortunately, due to weather for a couple of weeks, for a month, month and a half. So life moves on. I can't hold the podcast off forever until I finish that plan. So I went ahead and picked another topic in the queue, and this topic ended up being tornadoes, and I will move that arcade-themed show back an episode or two until events unfold and I can tell that story. What have I been up to in the past? Well, since the last episode, one is I went on vacation. I went on vacation to Washington, D.C. during the kids' spring break. Now, as you may recall, I work for the federal government, as does my wife. In my wife's position, she actually travels to Washington, D.C. We live in Oklahoma. She travels to D.C. 1 week a month. So I don't know how many times I've been to Washington, D.C., at least 20 times. So you would think neither one of us would want to go to Washington, D.C. on vacation. But unfortunately, whenever we go to Washington, D.C., it's all work. We don't have a whole lot of time to see the sights, go to the museums, do all those fun extracurricular activities. The last time I went on any tours or anything like that, I was in grade school, so that's been a long time. So we loaded up the family Honda, and the kids got in the back seat. My wife and I got in the front seat, and we drove from Oklahoma City to Washington, D.C., which is, well, if you were to do it straight through, it'd be 20-ish hours, 21 hours, something like that. We took a detour. We stopped in Louisville, Kentucky. We have a coworker, very nice lady named Betty, who either just turned or is about to turn 70 years old. And Betty bought a plate from a local artist for each one of our kids when they were born. And so my son's 13 and my daughter is 9. And the older plate lasted 13 years until about a month ago when my son broke it. And so, another thing, if you check out robohara.com, there's a link on the left-hand side that has a list of every state I've visited. So I've been keeping track of all the states I visited, and so far I have visited 45 of the 50 United States. And Kentucky is one of the states I have not been to. So all these things kind of converged. We ended up driving the car to Kentucky. We got to meet our friend Betty. We picked up a replacement plate for the one my son broke. We toured the Churchill Downs. We got to go out on the racetrack, see where the horses run. There are seats. We stood in seats that cost tens of thousands of dollars, but the tour is about $12 a person, I think. Maybe it's a little bit more, not much. But there's no horses. So that's the trade-off for the cheap seats. And we went to the Louisville Slugger factory where they make Louisville Slugger baseball bats. You get to go through and watch them make baseball bats. And I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I always love things like that. I love to see how things work, how they're made. They showed us how originally the bats took half an hour to make by hand, and now they can churn out a bat in 30 seconds. They have all this automated equipment where they can pick different bats, the different styles, and signature bats for each player and churn those things out. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Inside the Louisville Slugger factory and museum is the Topps. Now, the reason it's there is obviously for baseball cards, but the museum focused on, it was just a small walkthrough. It took probably 10 minutes to go through. But what it really focused on was all the type of cards other than baseball cards. So they had Star Trek cards, Star Wars cards, Indiana Jones cards, Smurf cards, all different kinds. They had a big section for Garbage Pail Kids. So it's really all about pop culture. They had a lot of movie memorabilia. They had a blaster from Star Wars. They had costumes from the original Batman television show and from Superman. So, they have a lot of cool stuff in there. So I always love pop culture stuff. So we finished with Louisville, Kentucky, and then drove the next day to Washington, D.C. Now, my wife did have to work some of the time that we were in Washington, D.C., but we did get to see we did a bunch of Smithsonian. The kids and I did the Smithsonian museums. We did the American History Museum. That's the one everybody wants to go see, that has the ruby red slippers and all sorts of things. Kermit the Frog and Archie the Bunkers. Archie Bunker's chair. They had Archie Bunker's chairs and the Fonz's jacket, and I listened to person after person come up and not know who either one of those were. My kids did not know who the Fonz was. My son's 13. I thought that the Fonz had permeated pop culture deeper than that, but apparently not. And there were people I saw in their 20s that didn't know who Archie Bunker was, or Archie the Bunker. That might be a cool rap name. But we did that. We did the Air and Space Museum, which is super cool. And all the Smithsonian museums in Washington, D.C. are free. So we did the Natural History Museum, which I really enjoyed. There's a lot of stuff there I didn't really care for. But I love bones and skeletons. I have a skeleton. I have McRib. They had human skeleton, orangutan, like all different types of monkeys and primates. They had all types of fish and snakes. I just thought it was fascinating to see how things are put together, So I had a really good time going through that museum. We also visited the Spy Museum in Washington, D.C., which is not free. I think for the three, it was me and the kids, was about $60. So, but it was very, very interesting. It's actually kind of divided in half. The first half is spy gadgets and the history of spies and espionage. They had an Enigma machine. Actually, they had an interactive Enigma display where the kids got to decrypt codes using a virtual Enigma, like on touch screens. Spy devices, hollowed out, things where people would pass notes, just all kinds of really cool stuff, a lot of cool devices and things. And then the second half of the museum was all dedicated to James Bond. Now, I don't know, I have seen some James Bond movies when I was a kid. I would not call myself a James Bond fan. I'm not against James Bond. I don't watch those movies a lot, but I'd like to go back and see them now. I took a ton of pictures of all these things, so that museum was great. Oh, and then we took a detour one day, and we drove from D.C. to Ambler, Pennsylvania, and went to the official Three Stooges Museum, the Stoogium. And I wasn't thrilled with it. I thought it was fine. I thought it was fun. A lot of the memorabilia they have are from the later years, which makes sense. And a lot of that earlier stuff just didn't survive. So, there's costumes like from the movies, Snow White and the Three Stooges, and Hercules, that type of era. There was a whole room of collectibles, and I thought that was really interesting. And some of the Stooges' personal memorabilia. There was some of their tax forms and one of their driver's licenses and things like that. The upstairs was artwork that had been submitted to the museum, and it was just from mostly artists I hadn't heard of, so we kind of blew through that. There was a Three Stooges arcade game and a Three Stooges pinball machine. My son loved those. And then the tour ended at the Three Stooges theater, which is a theater that seats about 80 people. And they just constantly show Three Stooges shorts the entire time they're open. After about the third one, I reminded my kids that we have every single Three Stooges short on our home video server, and they could be watching those every day. And so, but that was fun. And gosh, what else? So at that point, the family came home, and I continued my journey up to Buffalo, New York, where I got to meet and hang out over the weekend with my buddy Sean Johnson, who, if you listen to Throwback Reviews, Sean is my partner in crime on Throwback Reviews, along with Zerb. Sean and I have been podcasting together for a few years now, but we've never met in person. And so I got to go to Buffalo. I stayed at his house. I got to meet his wife, his 3 kids. They're super awesome. We had a super great time. He got to show me all around. He lives in a suburb just outside of Buffalo, and he showed me around his town and all these things that he's mentioned in podcasts over time. He tells me this is his jogging trail. This is where he goes to eat lunch. This is where he works. And so we got to drive around the town and see all those things. It was super fun. I just had a really good time. Sean's a great guy. He's a good host. I hope someday to return the favor. I hope he and his family make it down here to Oklahoma, maybe over spring break someday, maybe next year or something. So Sean is in the process of launching a new podcast. It's called the Average Runner Podcast. It is for people that are just getting into running, exercise, jogging, things like that, or people that, just run for fun, for exercise, whatever, and people that aren't, serious training athletes or whatever. And I've listened to the first episode. It's really good. It's inspiring. It reminds you don't have to be a professional to get out there and get some exercise and get moving and stuff. I've been working on my own book about diet and exercise and weight loss and all those struggles called Gastric Steps. You can find that at gastricsteps.com. And so Sean's, I think he and I play off each other a little bit. He sees my stuff and I go walking and I put it in a run keeper and he sees that and it reminds him to go. And I see him and starting to listen to his new podcast again. That was the Average Runner Podcast.com. And I think he just got that on iTunes. So if you're looking for a new podcast, something to listen to, I guarantee you listen to it and it's going to make you want to move your feet. It's going to make you want to get off the couch and go do something. You might even listen to it while you're exercising or something. So that's pretty cool. I highly recommend that. And we had a great weekend together, and that's pretty much it. Then I came home. We put about 3,500 miles on the car in a week and a half, which explains why we have a 3-year-old car with almost 100,000 miles on it. We do tack on the miles. Not much else to talk about right now. My other podcast, Sprite Castle, is still going well. I've been on a run on that lately. I think I just did episode 8. I'll probably release episode 9 sometime this weekend. So, if you are a fan of old computer games, Commodore 64 stuff, check out spritecastle.com. And, got some other podcast stuff going on right now, but, that's what I'm focusing on mainly. So, but you never know. You never know what the future holds, right? So, anyway, that wraps up this episode's loading time. Ran a little bit long today, but it was a long episode about tornadoes. Had to load in from the old Commodore 64 there. So if you have any feedback about this episode or any other episode of the show in general, you can always email your feedback to me at robohara@robohara.com, or you can leave a message for me on the You Don't Know Flack voicemail box, which is area code 405-486-YDKF. And don't forget about the Facebook page. You can go to facebook.com/You Don't Know Flack. All the posts links. It gets automatically posted when I post a new podcast, so they show up there. If you want to ask questions about an episode or just share anything, that's a great place to do it. And finally, don't forget you can follow me on Twitter at Commodork. I know that was a whirlwind of information. And speaking of whirlwinds, that brings us to the topic of episode 158, tornadoes. So when I was a little kid, I think everybody's first exposure to tornadoes is from The Wizard of Oz. You have the tornado that shows up in Kansas and it whisks Dorothy's house away and takes it to Oz, and Dorothy is gently set down. Of course, the house is set down on the Wicked Witch of the East and smashes her, leaves her legs sticking out. So I think that's a lot of people's first experience with tornadoes, or their exposure. Now, in reality, if a tornado hit a house like that, it would not pick it up in the wind. It would just destroy it. It would smash and throw pieces everywhere. And we will certainly talk about the physics of tornadoes on this episode. I've had people, when they find out that I live in Oklahoma, if I mention tornadoes, they ask me, why do you stay here? Why do you stay in a part of the country that has tornadoes? And I never really thought about that. You know, a tornado to me is just part of life here in the Midwest. You know, they have earthquakes in California, and they have hurricanes if you live near the shore, and there's tsunamis. There's all kinds of different forms of natural disaster, things like that. So, you know, I think tornadoes are just one of those things. Tornadoes to me have always kind of been like, you know, the possibility of getting in a car wreck or an airline accident. It seems like mostly, for the most part, those things happen to other people. And your odds are pretty good that it's not going to affect you. So, that's kind of the way that I've always looked at tornadoes. And it's kind of the way, I mean, you have to be careful when you know they're coming, but the odds of one directly affecting you are pretty slim. Not that it doesn't happen. We will talk about that as well on this show. So there are things when you grow up in Oklahoma that you become accustomed to that people in other parts of the country may not be familiar with. For example, we have the noon horn siren that goes off every Saturday at noon. I know some cities have a noon horn. For us, those are also the tornado sirens. So they test those every Saturday to make sure those things are working and can be heard. And let me tell you, they can be heard from a long way away. My dad is unfortunate. Well, I maybe say unfortunate. You might say fortunate to have one of those sirens mounted on a giant pole in his backyard. It's in the back corner of his backyard. And when that thing goes off, it goes off for like 2 minutes every Saturday at noon. And it rattles the windows. I have been on the phone with him when that thing goes off, and I can't hear because it is so loud, you know, coming from his side of the phone. So, you know, there are things like that we just are used to living around here. Another thing, when I was a kid in elementary school, we had tornado drills, and we still have tornado drills today at work. But a tornado drill when you're a kid, you know, all the schools that I grew up in were brick or cinder block interior, you know, and so when they would have a tornado drill, you would go leave your room because you want to get away from windows. I'm going to talk about some of the things you want to do during a tornado and some of the things you don't want to do. But you would go out in the hallway, and they would make us get on our knees and then facing the wall, facing the outside of the hallway, and then put our heads down and put our hands over our head because you want to protect your head. And you want to stay away from debris, you know, because a tornado is essentially high winds and it's going to blow things around. So when I was a kid, at the beginning of every school year, you know, or not school year, but tornado season in the spring, there would always be tornado drills. And they would say, we're having a tornado drill. The bell would ring and you would go out and assume the position. And that was pretty commonplace. And now at work, we do the same thing. I work in a government building complex that's fortunate to have basements. Most places don't have basements. Most houses in Oklahoma don't have basements. It has to do with the way that the soil is here, and they're very expensive to make where they won't crack here. So, in fact, I think I've only been in 2 homes, like people's houses in my life in Oklahoma that had basements. So it's pretty rare here. But at work, we have basements, of course, and we do the same thing. If there's a tornado warning, then people go down to the basement, and we don't have to get on our hands and knees. We just stand around and look at each other, and it gets really hot and sweaty because you have hundreds of people standing in a non-air-conditioned hallway. But that's where you want to be, is underground if at all possible. When I was pretty young, I would say maybe 7 or 8 years old, there was a storm coming, and there was a possibility of a tornado. And so we, this is common, I think, that mothers are inherently protective of their children, which is probably a good thing. It's probably the reason why children survive and grow up to be adults. So anytime there's bad weather, it seems like mothers always want to get their kids into the storm shelter or someplace that's safe. And dads pretty much always go get a beer and then go stand outside to see if they can see the storm, see if they can see the tornado or what's coming. And so I was a kid. I was 7 or 8 years old, and there was the possibility of a tornado. And so my mom got my sister, and they were going into basically in the living room, which is where we would go when I was a kid if there was a storm coming. And my dad went out on the back porch, and I went out there with him, and I saw a tornado. It was way off in the distance, and it looked like the tornado from The Wizard of Oz, a little upside down triangle, and it connected to the clouds above, and it was down, and it was pretty far away, but I definitely remember seeing that and thinking that was something massive. The storms came through. We had high winds. The tornado didn't come towards my house, but we did have high winds, and the next morning we woke up, and there was this little metal thing out in the yard, like a wind turbine and this other little metal thing. And I asked what that was, and I was told that was our chimney. And it was like a little metal tube. And I knew that we had a fireplace in my living room. We had a rock, mantle around a big fireplace. But I always assumed that the fireplace up at the top, like the chimney on top of my house, would look like a chimney from, storybooks, like a big brick square thing coming out of the top of the house. And so basically that's when I figured out, I hope there's no kids listening at this point, but that's kind of when I figured out, that there was no Santa Claus, because when I saw that and found out that was our chimney, I was like, well, there's no way anybody could get down that. It was just this little skinny pipe thing. So that, along with death and destruction, tornadoes also ruined my belief in Santa. So thank you, tornadoes. If you live in Oklahoma, and I do, then you need to know how to survive a tornado. And so there are different rules you want to follow depending on whether you're home or whether you're in your car. If you're in home, the first thing, the safest place for you to be is underground. And that means for most people, if you have one, you want to be in a storm shelter. Not everybody has a storm shelter. If you buy a new house, it may or may not come with a storm shelter. Probably not. That's something that you would purchase, and a place will come dig a hole and put one in for you. I'm going to talk. You know what? I'll go ahead and talk now. I was going to talk later about storm shelters, but I'll go ahead and talk about them now. There are a couple different kinds. There are metal ones, and then there are concrete ones, but the goal of them is the same. It's to be a small area that's underground so that the tornado will pass over and not kill you or smash you with debris. Like I said, there are two kinds. There are metal and concrete ones. If you get a metal one, or either one, they will come out and dig a hole, whether it's in the side next to your house or out behind your house. They dig a hole and they put this thing in, and usually they seat, a really small one would be, I guess, 4 people, and a large one would be maybe 8 to 10 people, something like that. They can be anything from something that looks like a small room, that might have a couch or bed or anything. That would be a really large one. Or it could be something as simple. The one that we have here at my house is basically a metal box that seats 6 people, and it has 2 benches on either side that seat 3 people. So you go down in this thing and you sit in a little small metal box and you face each other. I mean, it's probably 5 foot tall. I definitely couldn't stand up in it. And you go down in this thing, you go down the stairs. Now, ours is actually in the garage. And so that is a new common thing that they do, where they will come and tear out the foundation of your garage, put a storm shelter down there, and then on top of it, you have a sliding metal door, a steel door that slides over that will protect you. The one thing, and I'm going to talk about this later, is you have to be careful on a storm shelter like that, because things can fall on top of it. So if your house were to be damaged or something, there's a possibility that things would land on top of the storm shelter and you wouldn't be able to get out. So it's always important to, when you go in a storm shelter, to let somebody know that you're going in the storm shelter. And tornadoes, it's not like you would not know that a tornado hit somebody you knew. It's on the news. People know what's going on. So if they don't hear from you shortly, people are going to come looking for you. So that's not a huge concern, but it's definitely, if you're claustrophobic, you will not like storm shelters, because it is literally getting in a small metal box or a small concrete box or room or whatever, and sitting there and not knowing what's going on outside. The second best thing, if you don't have a way to get underground, would be a safe room. And a lot of newer houses here in the area, especially expensive houses, have a safe room. A lot of people think about those as being protection from, like a home invasion or a robbery type thing. But they also build those to survive tornadoes. They can be, I think, they make them about a foot thick concrete. They may put vents in there so that you can get fresh air and things. And it would just be in the middle of your home, like a closet or something, and you would go inside that safe room. And I have seen pictures of houses that were completely destroyed, and then in the middle there's a concrete cube sitting there, and that was the person's safe room. So that is definitely another way to make it safely through a tornado. Now, if you don't have either one of those things, and like I said, I don't know a number. I would have to do some research, but lots and lots of people don't have. In fact, this is the first house I've ever lived in that did have a tornado shelter, and I've lived in half a dozen places. So, I would maybe, 1 out of 10. Whenever there's a tornado, there's always a push for people to get tornado shelters, and then there's a rush, but then you could go years without a big tornado coming through, and it seems like it falls on the back burner. So, but I know lots of people that don't have tornado shelters. So for those people, what you want to do is get on the lowest level of your house. If you have a 2-story house, you want to go get down on the ground level, and you want to get in the center of your home. And the reason for that is because tornadoes are swirling winds, right? And so they are going to spin around, and they're going to destroy your house from the outside in. Think of it, that spinning maneuver. So, or that motion. So what's going to be left standing most likely is what's in the center of your house. You want to get into a small area. The best thing you can do is get into a closet or a bathroom. If you have a bathroom in the center of your house, a lot of people will get in the bathtub, especially if you have children. I know people that have gone into a bathtub and put, blankets or pillows over their kids. I'd have to be pretty sure that a tornado was at my front door before I did that, but I understand doing it. It's definitely a safe thing to do. Or a closet. And I, remember a few times as a kid getting in a closet and because we were afraid. Now technology has come a long way since then. When I was a kid, they might tell you that there's a tornado in the area, but now they can tell you, what street it's going down. Technology has just been phenomenal. The the advances in tornado technology. But that's where you want to be. You want to be in the center of your house, on the ground level, in a small room. At school, like I mentioned, they'll probably put you out in the hallway. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the schools in a little bit that got hit. There's been some terrible tragedies that involved schools and kids, and there's a big push now for schools to have a safe room. They're very expensive to build. In fact, my wife founded up a project for our kids' daycare because the kids' daycare did not have a basement or a safe room, and so they built an addition onto their building that is a large safe room that also doubles as a classroom, and it was about $500,000. So it was a huge fundraiser. They did it took multiple years to get done. And so now when the kids, if there's a tornado at that daycare, they all go into that room, but there was no place for them before. And so, but there's a big push now for schools that are being built to have some sort of safe room like that built on. Of course, it's very, very expensive to build something that large. But you need that to protect kids, There's nothing more horrifying, and I have been there before, knowing that there's bad weather coming and trying to get to the school to get your kid out of school, and there being a line of 100 cars, and it's a mess. So, if you know that your kids are safe at school, then you don't have to rush quite up there quite as quickly. And then there's, like I said, at work, my work, we have the basement thing. A lot of places at work will have some area where people are designated to go to. There's always a thing to take roll. Like you want to find out where everybody is and make sure everybody's accounted for, before and after the storm, that sort of thing like that. So, there's always somebody at work. There's a guy at our work that volunteers for that. And it's the guy that, I'm sure at grade school, he was the guy that volunteered to write people's name on the chalkboard when the teacher was out of the room, and now he uses a clipboard and writes down everybody's names at the tornado roll call. So good for him. Now, there is a chance that you may encounter a tornado while you are outside. Most often this happens because you are in your car. In your car is one of the two worst places you could possibly be, because you're not on the ground, and so the wind will get underneath your car and throw it. So if you're in a car, they recommend that you get out of the car. You want to get as low as possible. The lower, the better. So if you're in your car, they will tell you to get out of the car and go to the nearest ditch and lay down in the ditch. Obviously, if you can get, somewhere where there's like a little creek or a bigger type ditch, I don't mean just like on the side of the road, but, something that goes down a little ways, that's a better place to be. But you want to get down low. You want to lay on the ground. And there's two reasons for that. Like I said, number one, the higher up you are, you're going to get, more wind. It's going to be more, the lower the better. But the other thing is that tornadoes throw things around. It's not just wind. It's everything that it's run over. It's bricks and wood and pieces of trees and branches and glass and rocks and whatever else is whirling around in these winds. And so if you're out, standing up, you're going to get hit in the head with this stuff. And you don't want that. So you want to get down low. There's a saying, I've heard it my whole life, that God hates churches and trailer parks. And so when a tornado comes, you don't want to be in either one of those. Now, I don't know why. I'm sure that statistically speaking, there's no numbers that show that churches get hit higher than or more frequently than any other type of building. But for some reason, whenever a church gets hit, it's always on the news. They always focus on it. And so it always seems like whenever there's a tornado, that a church gets hit. So they would always, my dad would always say, you don't want to be in a church. And sure enough, every time there's a tornado, there's a church that gets destroyed. And a trailer park is horrible. You do not want to be in a mobile home. A mobile home is a big, lightweight box. You have no protection. The wind, just like in a car, the wind can go under the mobile home. It will tip it over. It will pick it up. It will throw it. It will tear the walls off it. Every time when there are tornadoes and you hear fatalities, there's always fatalities fatalities in a mobile home, in a trailer park. They absolutely don't want to be there. Now, I lived in a mobile home when Susan and I got married. We lived in a mobile home, and there was a common storm cellar. So you could go up to the main part. And I don't know how big it was. I was never in it. But, so you want to get out of that mobile home and you want to go somewhere else. Now, you don't want to be in your car. Another reason, I don't know if I guess I should talk about this if you're outside or whatever. So I said you don't want to be in a church when, halfway jokingly, and you don't want to be in a mobile home. You don't want to be in a car. And like I said, a tornado will just throw a car, it will destroy it. But another problem is people think that they can outrun tornadoes. And if you are on a drag strip, I'm just making this up, and there's a tornado in the left lane and you're in the right lane, you could probably outrun a tornado. The problem is that tornadoes don't stop for traffic lights, and tornadoes don't have to go straight on a road like you do, and tornadoes do not have to stop for traffic jams. So what happens inevitably? They'll say there's a tornado coming for such and such town. It's going to be there at 8 p.m. sharp. You need to seek precaution. You need to get in your safety hidey hole, whatever that is. By 8 p.m., you need to be safe. So there will always be people, like if you live in a mobile home perhaps, you get in a car and you're like, I'm going to leave. Well, all these other people are doing the same thing you're doing. So they all get on the interstate, or they all try to leave town, and all of a sudden there's traffic jam and it gets backed up. And now you got all these fools sitting in their cars, and here comes the tornado, and there's nowhere for them to go. They can't move. It's just gridlock, So, and some of those people get injured when the tornado hits their car. I mean, when a tornado, like I said, it's not that the wind is going to hurt your car. It might blow it over, but more likely what it's going to do is pick up, 2x4s or bricks and blow them through your window. And you're going to get hurt by getting hit with broken glass or shrapnel or things like that. So you just don't want to be in a car. It's really, now if you have enough of a heads up notice, then, you might get out of town. and by enough time, I mean, half an hour or something like that. But, if you can see the tornado, the storm's on top of you at that point, it's too late. Don't get in a car. You need to, seek shelter somewhere else. Now, another thing, and this did not come out until 1999. We're going to talk very shortly about the May 3rd, 1999 tornado, which changed a lot about how we react to tornadoes and what we know about tornadoes. One of the things I was always told is if you're in a car, when I was a kid, I was always told this, if you're in a car, what you want to do is get under a bridge, get out of your car and go up under the underpass. Like get up in that little spot up there, but where the underpass meets the top of the bridge, underneath it. And this is what they told us. I want to make sure that this is clear. They would tell us that is the safest place to be. It turns out that is one of the worst places that you can be. And so I pulled this quote. There's a quote on Wikipedia here. Quote, from a meteorological and safety standpoint, the tornado also brought the use, this is in regards of the May 3rd, 1999 tornado. It says that right here. It brought the use of highway overpasses as shelters into question. Prior to the events on May 3rd, 1999, videos of people taking shelter in overpasses during tornadoes in the past, most notably one filmed during the April 26, 1991 tornado, gave the public misunderstanding that overpasses provided shelter from tornadoes. For nearly 20 years, meteorologists had questioned the safety of these structures. However, they lacked incidents involving loss of life. During the May 3rd outbreak, 3 overpasses were directly struck by tornadoes, with a fatality taking place at each one. 2 of these were from the F5 Bridge Creek/Moore tornado, and the third was from a small F2 which struck a rural area north of Oklahoma City. According to a study by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, seeking shelter in an overpass, quote, is to become a stationary target for flying debris. And so that's exactly what happened to these people. They got up there. Now, remember what I said. We all know in a tornado, you want to get as low as possible. Well, these people got up high. They got up, so now they're 15, 20 feet or whatever, however, 15 feet up in the air. And so all this stuff from the tornado is just blowing. And so these people got hit with stuff and they got killed. And there was actually a story of a kid that got killed because the mother was holding the kid, and the tornado came through the underpass, and the winds just amplify when you're up there, and it took the kid and just threw the kid, and the kid unfortunately did not survive his flight. So that's a bad idea. Getting up under a bridge is a bad idea. And we were taught that, and it's a hard habit to break. Your instinct is to go do that, but it's not a safe place to be. Now, when I was a kid, we had a family of neighbors named the Butlers, and they had a storm shelter. They were the closest storm shelter to us. Now, they were the opposite corner down the block from us. So I just looked on Google Maps. They're 10 houses away from us. So if you think about, when you're a kid, your neighborhood walking down 10 houses or walking, down the whole block, that's where they were. So if we heard that there was a tornado coming or something, that was what we would do. If it was a serious one, we would walk, get outside, and we would walk all the way down the block, down to the other end of the block. So it'd take 5, 6, 7 minutes, whatever, and get down there and go into their storm shelter. Now, I remember one time, and their storm shelter was huge. I mean, of course, I'm remembering as a kid. I've never been in there as an adult, but I know they had a pair of bunk beds in there, which I always thought was super cool. And they had a TV down there, and you had to run the antenna outside, because down in there you wouldn't get any TV reception. So they had a TV wire running out for TV reception, but a little black and white TV so you could watch the news stuff, and they had a radio. That's one thing about storm shelter is you have to keep it stocked. Like our storm shelter, we have little, some people have, what do they call it? Like a breakout bag or their bag of things if, there's an emergency or whatever. And we have that down in our storm shelter. We have flashlights and batteries and a radio, and Susan, is a Girl Scout leader, so they have a hand-generated radio where you can wind it up and listen to radio, and there's some food down there, some protein bars and bottles of water, so we keep stuff out there. And then every spring, you also have to go down there and get all the dead mice and frogs that have fallen down there and died, couldn't get out. There's a few of those every year. But anyway, so we would, when we were kids, if there was a big storm coming, we would go down to the Butlers and go get in their storm shelter. And I remember one time there was a storm coming. It was windy. And so we were like, oh, we better go down to the Butlers, and so we're all going down there. And this wind, we were about halfway down there, and this wind hit us in the back. And it was almost like it felt like I was flying, it was like, of course you're a kid, but, it just hit me in the back, and all of a sudden I was running faster, and I was like, wow, like I was taking these big leaps, it seems like, and so we got down there and got in the storm shelter, and I remember we were there for a long time, and you're a kid, it seems like a long time. And, we had, some friends of ours were over, my buddy, Andy, and his family, so it was his brother and sister and his mom were over visiting. So all of us went down to the storm shelter. So we're all huddled in this little storm shelter, and the storm passes, but now it's raining, it's flooding. The ditch is flooding. The creek is flooding. And so, to leave our neighborhood to get back to their house, they had to go over this little, like a 1-lane bridge, and I remember, his mom telling this story later that the creek had started to flood, and so she was driving across the bridge, and all of a sudden the water caught their car, and it kind of hydroplaned. It started going over to the side, and fortunately she was going fast enough forward that she got over the bridge, and the tires reconnected, and she was able to go. But she told us, I remember she was telling my mom, and I was, over listening, or, to their conversation, and she said, I'm in a car with 3 kids, and I only have 2 arms. And then you start thinking, like, if we go into that ditch, which 2 kids do you grab or whatever? It's just a horrifying thought, thinking about that kind of decision is terrible, and so, one of the things they always tell you during a tornado is, the same thing as a house fire or whatever. Like, there's a lot of people that get killed because they go out for their cat or their dog or something like that. And pets, this sounds, I don't mean this to sound cruel or anything like that, but pets have a pretty good way of surviving. You know what I mean? So now the dog may end up missing or whatever, and you know, there'll be all these things that they organize things for people to find their pets and stuff like that, because there's always people's cats that run off and stuff like that. But it's you know, animals do pretty good or whatever. So if there's a tornado and people go off running trying to get their dog and stuff and get killed, it's not a good situation for anybody. So, but anyway, tornadoes, yeah, it's just kind of a way of life in Oklahoma. Now, when there are tornadoes coming, the local news stations, everybody has their favorite. Where our local channels are 4, 5, and 9. That's NBC, ABC, and CBS. And we watched Channel 9. So the whole time growing up, we had Gary England. Gary England is a legend in the meteorology field. He really is. And now we watch David Payne, but people have their guy, you know what I mean? So we watch Gary England, so you turn on Channel 9, and right off the bat, you'll be watching TV, and then up in the corner it'll say, you know, you've got thunderstorm warning, this, that, and then you'll have tornado watch and tornado warning, and you know, so there's different levels, like whether there's a tornado watch is that there's the possibility, like the atmosphere is right. You know, tornadoes are formed by hot air coming in, and they go over in the cold air, and where the front meets. That's why it happens in the Midwest a lot. And then it will start to rotate, and there's all these things. Everybody in Oklahoma is an expert on tornadoes. They ask anybody what a wall cloud is, or you know, when they see a lowering, or there's the rotation and all these things. And so people know this because we watch the news, and they talk about it all the time. You know, so, but what'll happen eventually, it'll start out, it'll be in the corner of your TV, and then they just take over the TV, and the weather will be on for 2 hours. And so you'll have your guy, and all of a sudden, you know, they got all these the storm chasers, they go out there and they set up their cameras, and then they'll, you know, they got, every news channel has their own news helicopter, so they get the helicopter out there and they follow the tornado around, and you know, the guy on, I think it's Channel 9, you know, the helicopter guy is Val. So then they'll say, I think maybe Val's on Channel 4, I don't know, but they'll say, all right, you know, they got this thing called the Gittner, which is, it sounds funny because I always think, oh, they're getting that guy on the Gittner, you know, but it's like the communication thing or whatever. So they say, all right, Val, let's get Val on the Gittner. What do we got, Val? And then they cut to the helicopter. Well, we got rotation, you know, it's rain soaked. We can't see it, but we got movement and this, and then they'll show the map or whatever. But the amazing thing is that they know, because the weather, they know which way the tornadoes are, number one, where they're most likely to occur, and number two, which way that they're traveling. So they will have a map of Oklahoma, and they'll, you know, figure out what the speed is, and they'll draw this arrow, and it'll say, all right, well, you know, it's going to be in El Reno at 9 o'clock. It'll be in Yukon at 9:10. It'll be in Moore at 9:15, or Mustang at 9:15, and Moore at 9:30. You know, and they draw this arrow, and so they say if you live in these areas, you need to seek shelter and whatever, and keep an eye on what's going on. So, and usually you will have hours of notice. I mean, a lot of times they will say, listen, tonight around 7 or 8 o'clock, there's going to be storms, and there's a chance for tornadoes. So, and you might hear that during the day. So when you come home, you're like, all right, like yesterday, they said there could be a chance of storms. There's going to be, you know, hail producing clouds at 8 o'clock. So I went out after work at 4:30. I cleaned out the garage, so I'd have room to put my car, and pulled the car in at 5. And you know, we went out to dinner, got everything, and you get it all set up. Get ready, you know, for the night of storms. Then you make yourself some popcorn, sit in front of the TV. Hope there wasn't any TV shows on regular 4, 5, or 9 that you wanted to watch, because sure enough, you know, those are going to be off because all the weathermen are going to be going on. The weather stuff, the radar and the tools, the programs, to me, it's like kids with their toys, you know, and I don't mean to make light of it, but, you know, it's like a guy, my dad used to always say he used to say, I think he mentioned this to me after Waco. He said, there's nobody in the world that owns a machine gun that doesn't want to try it out. And the point behind that is, if you have toys, expensive things like that, you're waiting for the day where you get to use that. And so, they have all this radar equipment, they got their helicopters, they got all this software. And so the minute that storms come in and that there's a potential of tornadoes or whatever, they're on the ball. It's good because they do save lives. Ultimately that's the goal, is to save lives. But also, I would say the primary function of all this is to save lives, and the secondary one is to get ratings. So, which, it's TV. It is what it is. Now, in 1994, I was living in a mobile home, as I mentioned, with my wife. We weren't married yet. I had we each had cars, and I had a motorcycle. Of course, you live in a trailer. You don't have a garage or anything like that. We just had a little driveway out front. And we were watching the news, and they said this storm was coming through, and they said it had the potential of tornadoes. Now, at that point, I was 21 years old, maybe 22. No, I was 21 years old. And I was like, how bad can a tornado be? It's not, it's wind. You know what I mean? It's not like a tsunami that's actually physically water hitting you. It's not like an earthquake where the ground's moving. It's just wind. And I get it. It's a lot of wind. It's wind blowing at high speeds, but it's wind, So we were sitting in the mobile home, and all of a sudden you can hear the wind pick up outside. You can hear leaves blowing off the trees or whatever. And then the whole mobile home starts rocking back and forth. I mean, my house is literally rocking back and forth. You can feel it. I'm hearing things crash outside. And it wasn't like the house, was blowing like, an amusement park ride or anything, but it was enough where you could feel the house moving. And when we went outside, my motorcycle had literally been blown over and blown several feet away from where it was. Broke the windshield and bent up the clutch handle and a few other things. So that was my first little miniature taste of what wind can do. And it was scary. It was definitely, you're all of a sudden you are like, you feel like in your house, you're safe. You know what I mean? Like you have that, at night you lock the front door and, you go to bed and you're like, and you get under the cover, like there's some magic protection that we all get, right? From getting under a sheet or under a blanket or something. And to be in where you feel safe in your living room and feeling that house move is a very disturbing feeling. I will never forget that day. The other thing that goes hand in hand, I should mention, with tornadoes. I think I was going to talk about this later, but by the way, I don't know if you could tell this, but I'm winging this entire episode. But something that goes along with tornadoes is they tear up, I guess the easiest way to say it would be the city's infrastructure. Primarily, it's going to tear down power lines, it's going to tear down phone lines, and now it's going to tear down cell phone towers. So if you're in an area that gets hit with a tornado, or there's a storm coming, right off the bat, you're going to lose power. You're also going to lose the ability to make phone calls. So, and now, if, your cable goes out or whatever, also, now you've lost the internet because your cell phone's not working either. So you are cut off. And it's a very frustrating feeling. I remember that night when the trailer was rocking, right before that happened, we lost the power. So we're sitting in a dark room, and then the house starts shaking or whatever. It was very, very scary to go through. And like I said, I did a couple $100 damage to an old motorcycle. It was no big deal, but it was a bit of an eye-opener for me. So let's get to May 3rd, 1999. On May 3rd, 1999 is infamous. If you Google May 3rd, 1999, the May 3rd, 1999 tornado that came through Oklahoma will come up. I was at my house working on I was replacing a fence. Our old wooden stockade fence had fallen down, and so we had bought new fence panels, and I had a friend over, and my dad was there, and we were working on the fence, and all of a sudden I'll tell you this. If you lived in Oklahoma your whole life like I have, when it's tornado season, when it's the right weather for tornadoes or whatever, when the I guess when the possibility of a tornado is coming up, you could feel it. And it's hard to explain, but first of all, winds always pick up. Second of all, the temperature always drops because, again, those tornadoes are caused by hot air, and meaning, a warm front and a cold front colliding. And, there's something with the air pressure. It just feels different, So we're out there working on this fence, and I'm like, it starts getting gray and it starts getting cool, and I'm like, man, this don't feel right, So we go inside and we turn on the news, and sure enough, they say, hey, there's a tornado warning or a tornado watch. There's a possibility of a tornado. Now, my father and I, if we're together and there's a storm coming or impending bad weather, one thing we will always go do is go eat. And it's kind of a funny thing we do. Partially that's to thumb our nose at whatever storm is headed our way. It's our version of Lieutenant Dan getting up on top of the boat and shouting, hit me with your best shot. But there's also a practical reason for that in the sense that nobody will be, so if you go to a restaurant, you're going to have the place to yourself because everybody is at home being afraid of impending doom. Ooh. So my dad and I, my buddy Tim, who was over helping with the fence, Tim left. He was like, I'm getting out of here. We said, all right, see you later. And we lost our help, so Dad and I said, hey, I know this great Chinese buffet down the street. Let's go to this Chinese buffet. So we go out, we're having Chinese food or whatever. And there's something with the sky, man. When the sky starts turning all kinds of weird colors, it'll turn purple and orange and stuff, and you can just feel it. You just know that it's tornado weather, And so it starts doing that. We're out eating or whatever, and they've got the news on at the restaurant, and then we hear tornado sirens starting to go off, and that's bad because they are very reluctant to fire those things off. They don't turn them on for a warning, or they don't turn them off because there might be a tornado. They turn them on when you hear the tornado sirens. If you're within earshot of it, you need to be getting into your safe place. So we heard these tornado sirens. Now, there was a special released. I recorded. I threw in a tape, I think, before we left, and I recorded the news from that night. However, at some point we lost power at my house, and so they actually combined a lot of the best footage and released it as a tape that you could, a VHS tape. I think it's called Maze Fury. I have to check, but anyway, you could buy it as a fundraiser to help people and stuff like that. The proceeds went to help people that lost their houses and stuff in the May 3rd tornado. So I actually bought that. And so some of the audio that I'm going to be playing during this came from that. And the difference between that and the actual footage that I taped that night is that on this videotape, they've added background music, like dramatic. It sounds like something from a Tom Clancy movie or video game. So you may hear some music in the background here, but anyway, while we were sitting in the restaurant, this is basically the part of the news broadcast that we heard.
I've got rapid rotation almost directly above me, just to my west-northwest, and it's going to tornado at any time. Tornado is imminent. Now here comes the funnel. I have condensation cloud. My winds are picking up. And here come the winds, Mike. 40 going to 50. Rapid rotation, Mike. Here we go. Winds to 50 to 60 miles an hour. Rotation increasing. Here we go. Winds to 80 miles an hour, Mike. Winds to 80 miles an hour. Tornado on the ground. Winds to 80 miles an hour. West of Liberty. Morgan, can you hear me?
Yes, we have you live, David.
Okay, I'm talking so loud. The winds are really kicking up here again. It's just to my west-northwest, about a half mile. And rapid rotation. It's getting broader. It's getting broader.
There it is, Jim. There you go. Right, that's rapid rotation right there,
go.
folks. That's very dangerous. That's rapid rotation. That is a tornado on the ground. It's getting much larger. David, stay with us and stay safe. Where's your location right now, David?
Mike, it's a big tornado. It's on the ground. It's just to my north. It's just to my west-northwest, about About an eighth of a mile. No, I'm sorry.
That is a large tornado.
About
It's
an eighth
getting
of a
very
mile
large.
west. Big tornado on the ground. See the rotation. It's just bigger. It's right above my head and to my north.
So now they are reporting, I want you to think about a tornado like on The Wizard of Oz, and it's this big triangle-shaped thing, right? And it comes down to a little tiny point, and it touches the earth in this little small section, right? And so now they are reporting a tornado on the ground that's 500 foot wide. I want you to think about that for a moment. 500 foot. So a football field is 100 yards, right? 300 feet. So it is a little over a football field and a half wide on the ground. Now it is coming from the south. And my friend Scott went to college in a town about 45 minutes away called Chickasha. And that's one of the, obviously one of the Indian tribes that came here to Oklahoma. And down in Chickasha, there's a small airport. And so we got back home. We left the Chinese restaurant. We were like, well, this sounds serious. And we got back home, turned on the news, and then they were talking about the airport in Chickasha.
Okay. David, stay right there, and we want to know, minute by minute, mile by mile, what this thing is doing as it comes into Chickasha.
Okay, I can hear the sirens going off now in Chickasha. All right, there we go. We have condensation on the ground again.
Okay.
On the ground.
Jim Gardner, can you pan out and show us Chickasha again, and let's go back over the tornado, because it's now coming into town. Go ahead.
Right now I'm on the southwest corner of the city of Chickasha. That appears to be on the northwest side. I have a visual on the airport, Mike. It appears to be tracking. It's going to track right over the top of the Chickasha airport, Mike, right over the top of it.
Okay, now you're talking about the Chickasha Municipal Airport on the northwestern side of town.
That's correct. It appears it's going to track right over the top of it, Mike.
Okay, and you from your vantage point, does it look like it's on the ground to you right now?
Yes, there's a large condensation cloud. It's very large, Mike, very large.
Okay, cross confirmation here, Highway 81 and Highway 62. You folks in Chickasha, that junction, as you know, is on the northwestern side of town. 1/4 to 1/2 mile west of that location. That's the exact location of the tornado, which would put it in the Chickasha Municipal Airport. Those of you that live on the south and southeastern sides of that toward the northwestern side of Chickasha, that's where it's going to be tracking. So it's going to skirt across the northwestern fringe of Chickasha. Steve Crono, go ahead.
Mike, I am on Highway 81, north of 62, on the west-northwestern parts of Chickasha. It is on the ground once again. It is on the ground. I'm about less than a mile away from it.
Okay.
Mike?
Yes, go ahead, David.
Okay, Mike, it's going back to another 1/4 to 1/2 mile wide tornadoes we just talked about. It's recycle. It's rapidly going to 1/4 to a 1/2 mile wide wedge here on the west-northwest side of Chickasha.
Okay. It's
and
just
Mike,
that
it's got west winds again on the south side of the tornado, about 80 miles an hour now, so there's going to be some damage south of the tornado.
David Payne brings up a good point. And we saw this on the June 13th tornadoes. On the south side of the tornado, you'll get some real strong damaging winds on the south side of the tornado that could easily be over 100 miles an hour. And the reason why we draw that point out is because Chickasha will be on the south side of this tornado as it tracks across the northwestern side of town. So even if the tornado misses the middle of Chickasha, you folks in Chickasha may have winds over 100 miles an hour on the south side. It'll be a wind from the west. So you folks need to stay especially away from your west windows in the entire city of Chickasha, as it now is tracking across 62 near the junction of Highway 81, near and just to the southeast of the Chickasha Municipal Airport.
Hey, Mike, can I interrupt for a minute?
Yes.
Go ahead,
Mike,
Jim.
We're going to run into a problem here. Highway 81 is packed with cars. I mean, not Highway 81, but the Bailey Turnpike. We're just looking at it. It's packed with cars coming southbound, Mike. I don't know where this is going to cross. If you can give a projection where this is going to cross, but we could have some serious damage here.
So things are getting worse. And as you may hear on some of the recordings, this is where I'm talking about where you don't want to be in your car. So all these people that were in Amber, there's two towns, Amber, Pocasset, that are side by side. They're like sister cities. All these people, when they heard this thing is coming, they all went and got on the H.E. Bailey Turnpike, and then the turnpike traffic eventually, just stopped. So now all these people are trapped on the turnpike, And the tornado is turned and heading up the turnpike towards these people now. So the news, the news people at this point are simulcasting on, so it's on the radio and on television, and they are telling these people to get out. And so, so you have all these people on the turnpike trying to flee the tornado, which is coming to the Amber. And then here is the broadcast from that portion.
Mike, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Steve.
The tornado just took out our back windshield. The tornado just took out our back windshield. It shattered it. It passed in front of us about, less than a quarter of a mile. The tornado is still on the ground, probably east-northeast of Amber, about maybe 3 or 4 miles. It just took out the back windshield of our vehicle.
Okay, this is a very large tornado. It continues on the ground. David Payne, go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, I'm 5 miles. I'm actually 4.5 miles east of Amber. The tornado went to the south and east of Amber. There's numerous homes gone. They're gone. There's nothing left of the homes. The tornado passed about 200 yards to me. I had winds to probably 120 miles an hour in my vehicle. Power lines down, all kinds of power lines down. Major damage to the east of Amber. And unbelievably, there's a truck coming at me when this is going on, and he missed the tornado by literally feet. He's lucky to be alive. But again, all kinds of damage here. There's homes that are completely off their foundation. There's nothing left.
Let's clarify that. You're saying that there are homes that have been swept off their foundation and they're gone. Is that what you're trying to say?
I saw 2 homes that took major damage, and one was literally gone. There was nothing left. And I'm seeing big 100-year-old trees that are sheared off at the base, or they're gone. And I drove to the damage path. I clocked it. It's a half-mile wide tornado, 5 miles north and east of Amber. It's big, and it's got winds in excess of 200 miles an hour.
Yes, it does.
250, and I mean, it means business.
Yes, it does. I think it's fair to say that we have at least an F4 category tornado now coming into the southwest metro.
We've seen them for years. No doubt about it. Seen it over and over, time and time again, an F4, and this may actually go, I'm not going to say an F5 because the damage is hitting, but I'll give it an F4 right now. It's just absolutely incredible. It's been multiple vortex, and right now it's a half-mile wide, getting larger as I'm talking to you.
Okay, David and Steve Crono both stay with us. Track it if you can stay safe. Let's go to Jim Gardner. Jim?
Now, I don't know that I had ever heard of a tornado being on the ground that was 500 feet wide. I just couldn't imagine that. But now I want to fast forward to this part of the program where the tornado is now a mile wide.
Mike, this is Mike.
Yes, go ahead, Mike.
This storm is almost a mile wide. It is about a mile on the west side of H.E. Bailey right now. It seems to be following the path of the interstate pretty closely. It hasn't gotten much closer to the interstate since we started following it. There are people on the sides of the roads here under the underpasses getting protection. There are emergency vehicles on the highway out here tracing the storm in case of any damage. We haven't seen anything get hit here, but I imagine there are tons of stuff in the path of this storm and inside the actual funnel, which at this point is more than half a mile wide.
Now, on a EF, well, I guess I should talk about this a little bit. When they talk about tornadoes, they used to have what they called the F scale, and it was an F0 to an F5. F5 being the highest, and an F0 being the lowest. And these were basically measured by the damage that they caused and the wind speeds. And the F5 topped out at, well, it raised a little bit, but originally I believe it topped out at 300 miles per hour. So wind speeds of 300 miles per hour. It was raised to 318 miles per hour. Now, at this time, as you hear the tornado as it's approaching Bridge Creek, they have measured the wind speeds at 301 miles per hour, plus or minus 20, and there's a actual data of 318 miles per hour recorded, which is the highest wind speed ever recorded. So, I mean, a tornado.
It was near the town of Bridge Creek that the Doppler on wheels, a portable Doppler radar, measured an incredible wind speed, 318 miles per hour, establishing a new world record.
all of a sudden, this is not only a tornado, it is a tornado of epic proportions. It is a mile wide. It is winds of in excess of 300 miles an hour. Nobody has seen anything like this, and definitely not something that is, working its way through towns. I'm gonna save that for a little bit, but so we have it going through all these areas. Bridge Creek is a small community. There's a lot of trailer parks, but now the tornado is heading up the turnpike, and it's headed towards more. So you have these guys on the ground, you have the helicopter guy, and I'm just going to let this play for a few minutes as the tornado heads to more.
And here it is. Back up. All right. We're backing up. Hello? Back up. Get me on there. Back up. Get me on there. I'm having to back out of it. I'm too close. Hello? Stop. Okay, Mike, I'm on a southwest 149th, just north of the river, and an F3, F4 tornado. I just had to back out. I was too close. Have to admit, I had to back out a little bit. Got a little scared there for a second. Again, it's crossing southwest 149th right now. Oh my gosh, I've got a huge roof in the air. I've got a home roof in the air. I've got winds now to 100. In my position to 110 miles an hour. The tornado is directly over southwest 149th. And it's a half-mile wide, and it's an F4 tornado, winds in excess of 200, maybe 240 miles an hour. Okay. If you can hear the wind, I'll roll the window down, and you can hear the wind here. You can hear the rushing water sound, the roar, if you would. 149. It just crossed southwest 149th, just east of 44, and I think what it did, it turned hard right at the river, and then it took more of a north turn. It turned more back to the left. It anchored and came back to the left as it intensified, which of course is a classic thing that happens with these. So it came a little bit further north, and I am in the middle of all kinds of damage here. I've got a building that was, as I'm talking to you, there's several homes here that were hit extremely hard. I have animals, power lines down, animals down. I have a mess, and of course, as you can imagine, we need emergency crews here on Southwest 49th, just east 44. And oh my gosh, looking around, Mike, it looks literally like a war zone. I mean, every house, cars, it's really bad. I can just describe it as a war zone. There's debris everywhere. There's parts of houses that are missing. Major large trees are snapped off of the base, sheared off of the base. And again, the tornado now just to my north and east.
A lot of explosions going off in the middle of this tornado. So significant damage being done as this tornado tracks. We're getting a lot of turbulence here, Mike. We're right on the edge of the winds are just incredible. When we went into Westheimer, we were still several miles away from this thing, but the winds are just absolutely incredible.
Okay, this will be tracking across I-35 just to the north of Highway 37 at around southwest 104th Street. If you live around southwest 104th and I-35 back down to May Avenue and Highway 37, it is right there tracking towards southwest 104th or south 104th and I-35. Jim, let's stay with your chopper shot. It is moving in now to the heart of northwestern Moore. Go ahead.
Roger, Mike. We can see cars on the roads, on the streets up in front of us, Mike. I don't know if you can tell that from you, but I mean, these people need to get off this road. I mean, it's just, I don't know what to say, Mike. The pictures tell it all. This is just a massive tornado. It's creating a lot of damage. Anybody caught in this thing is going to be injured. They need to get off now if they're listening to the radio and find a safe place. They got emergency crews running everywhere down the road here, Mike. We're coming up just northwest of Westheimer here, about 4 miles, tracking northeast bound with this tornado. You just see the explosions going off in the center of this thing, Mike. But the main concern is the people on the ground on these roads. They need to find shelter. Back to you.
Okay, let's go to our ground shot at South 89th and I-35. Now you can see it. There it is. We're going to stay with this one for a while as well and just go back and forth between the chopper and the ground shot. There is the tornado on the ground. You're at South 89th Street and I-35. That's just to the south of Crossroads Mall. You're looking toward the southwest from Crossroads Mall.
Large explosion.
And there's
Large explosion.
Explosion.
tremendous, folks. We have to just express
Large
to you
explosion.
this is 200 mile per hour winds plus. Now moving toward I-35 in Moore.
Mike, there you can see it on the ground.
That's a
Very
horrific
dangerous
sight.
situation. Our worst fears really are realized. A
Yes.
major tornado on the ground in a major metropolitan area. Dangerous situation. Not since June 13th.
You can hear
that we
it.
see.
You can hear it
often
from South
hear.
89th Street. You
Let's
can hear it.
well, let's be quiet for just a second. We'll see if we can hear that.
You can hear the roar. You can hear the tornado from 89th Street. You can hear the roar.
Again, those listening on radio, you are going to be occasionally experiencing some power outages because these storms are moving into the metro area. We're going to have
Let's stay with
occasionally
that
some
shot. Look at the
interruption of
debris.
powers.
Look at all the debris. Look at all the debris in the air. Folks, please, we plead with you. You absolutely have got to get down. Get to the lowest level you possibly can. We plead with you, do not take the extra minute or two. We plead with you to get below ground, get in the interior closet or bathroom, get in the bathtub. We plead with you. There it is, crossing Interstate 35. There is a tremendous amount of debris in the air. We pray and plead with you, please get down now. If you're I-35, get out of your car. If you're east of I-35 over to Tinker Air Force Base, please, we plead with you, go to your safe spot now, take your radio, forget the live pictures, go get safe. Oh my gosh.
89, South 89.
Folks, we plead with you, just go to your safe spot if you possibly
we
can.
pray-
That's an F. Look at the horizontal vortex. That is an F4 to an F5 tornado. That's
Mike.
winds of 250 miles an hour.
All right, we're asking our crew right now to shut down, get out, and get out of there. This is a dangerous situation. Mike, a serious situation, and many folks still will be tempted to go outside and try to look at this thing.
Mike,
Do not go outside. Stay
cannot do
where
it.
you're at. If you're in your car in this area, you need to get out of your car right now. Going to be experiencing some power outages. We're broadcasting, simulcasting right now on AM 1520 KOMA and also on Magic 104.1 FM and
KRXO.
also on KRXO. So FM 107.7 or 104.1 or also KOMA 1520. This is the largest storm we have seen in the metro area.
Oh my gosh. This will go south of our live camera.
Okay.
I think they can probably stay up and be safe. It's going to go to their south and to their east. Folks, if you live along South 89th Street, and it's in North Moore right now, if you live on South 89th Street over to Lake Stanley Draper and Tinker Air Force Base, folks, it's headed your way, and it could easily be an F5 tornado. We plead with you, do not take this lightly.
So if you look at a map, the path that this thing is taking, it goes through Moore and it's going to miss Midwest City. And Midwest City is where Tinker Air Force Base is. So now, even though it's going to miss Midwest City, they're still telling people you need to look out because if you're on the south side of this, it's just the wind is still blowing. It's still a massive storm. And so my mom and my grandma both lived in Midwest City. And so I call my mom and I'm like, I hope you're watching the news. And she's like, yeah, we're watching the news. It's going to miss us, you know. But it's all, you know, we're all good, right? And I'm talking to her on the phone and then she just stops me and she says, Rob, I can hear it. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And she says, I can hear it. It's coming. It's outside. It sounds like a train. And I can hear it. And I'm like, well, what are you going to do? And she's like, she had her cordless phone. She says, I'm getting in the closet or whatever. And I says, okay, well, you know, and she says, it's just getting louder and louder. And I said, okay. And then the phone just went dead.
Tinker, we're in view of Tinker Air Force Base at this time. I've counted 6 lightning strikes directly to the Tinker Air Force Base in front of this tornado. I mean, Tinker's just getting pelted with lightning strikes. It's unbelievable. The Moore is totally without power. I mean, it's black, Mike. There's just a few scattered lights on. Moore is totally without power. But right now, the main concern is Tinker Air Force Base. This thing is tracking right for it, Mike.
South 89th and Sunny Lane, almost on 240. Tornado, large tornado on the ground right now. David Payne joins us. David, can you see the storm?
Yeah, Dan, it's on 240. I'm a mile east of Sunny Lane. It's on 240 and Sunny Lane. I've got major damage here on 240. Eastbound here, I just passed Sunny Lane. I've got west winds again at about 80 miles an hour, and it looks like snow. It looks like snow. I've got so much debris. I've got debris all over my car. There's debris hanging on the power lines that are left. There's just pieces of homes scattered all through and on 240. It looks like it's a desert. What I mean is there's nobody here but my car going eastbound. There's billboard signs, big metal billboard signs blown over. And it literally looks like an atomic bomb went off here, just east on I-240 at Sunny Lane. The tornado now is just to my east, just to my northeast, about an eighth of a mile or less. The rapid rotation here, and again, trees, large trees are sheared off at the base, and I'm having okay.
David, it is now it's 1 mile southwest.
I'm going to pull out of here. We've got all kinds of gas lines now leaking. I smell gas spewing all over.
So I tried calling my mom back. I just got a fast busy signal. I tried calling my grandma. I got a fast busy signal. I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know if their neighborhood's been wiped out or what's going on. And they are showing on the news. By this time, they have reporters that are in more. They have reporters, rescue workers that are trying to make their ways, but there are not enough rescue people because the whole state, this tornado is going for miles and miles. It's just bad, So, at some point, the reporters, once the tornado has gone by, the reporters, turn into rescue workers and they just start, trying to help people.
Anyone badly hurt? Okay. All right, just stay there. Yeah, don't move because of these power lines. Yeah.
We look around, there's nothing left. There's no homes, no trees, cars are mangled. And by looking at all the cars, we knew there was people home. And more than likely, people were hurt and even killed. At that point, that's when we honestly knew chase was over, that we had to get out and help as many people as we possibly could.
This storm, I want you to think about like a house being destroyed or something and what you would think of like rubble or things. There are pictures, and I can put some of these in the show notes, of just rows of slabs of concrete, and there's nothing left of the house. There is no house. That's not rubble. That's just nothing. The trees are gone. It sucked the grass out of the ground for miles. There are aerial pictures of Oklahoma where it's just a track of dirt running across the state because this tornado pulled all the grass out of the ground. It's just unimaginable, the force of this thing. I have never before in my life heard this. Never. But after the tornado had hit, the smaller towns, Bridge Creek, Moore, my whole life I've heard, don't run from a tornado, get underground, get in the middle of your house, all these things. The forecasters came on the air and they said, if you're in the path of this thing and you're not underground, you will not survive. You need to move. You need to get out. And unfortunately, shortly after going through, it hit Mulhall. And it was a mile wide on the ground, and it destroyed Mulhall. It also came through... this is still, 7, 8 o'clock at night or whatever. It wasn't done. There were more storms. It continued going. One of the stories that I tell people is about Stroud, Oklahoma. Stroud is a city that's on the turnpike. It's halfway between Oklahoma City and Tulsa. And there's a big outlet mall there. So you would take the turnpike and about halfway up, you'd get off at Stroud, go to the little outlet mall. It wiped the outlet mall off the map. And not only did it do that, but Stroud had, I think I've read, around 3,000 people, and about 800 of them lost their jobs. And the outlet mall was one of the major employers of the area. And so Stroud, it's not like it tore up Stroud. It's like it destroyed the town. It's like it killed a town. It's just so unbelievable to think about. Here is a quote from Wikipedia about the May 3rd, 1999 tornado. It says, throughout the tornado's path, 36 people were killed as a direct result of the storm, and 5 more died of indirect causes in the hours following it. And this is just me, but I know that, like somebody was electrocuted. I know somebody got drowned. So they weren't hit, they weren't killed by the tornado directly, but from things, that were caused by the tornado. According to the Oklahoma Department of Health, an estimated 583 people were injured by the tornado, accounting for those who likely did not go to the hospital or were unaccounted for. In terms of structural losses, a total of 8,132 homes, 1,041 apartments, 260 businesses, 11 public buildings, and 7 churches were damaged or destroyed. Well, 7 churches, that's not bad. That's better than public buildings. Maybe God hates public buildings. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it likes houses too much either. So, it was the scariest thing I had ever seen in my life. It was unbelievable. So the next day, the next morning, I got up and I drove over to... You couldn't drive that night because, first of all, there were power lines down everywhere, and there was crap on the roads. There's 2x4s and stuff and trees. So the next day, I get up, and my mom lived like half an hour away, so I drive out to my mom's place, and there are policemen and National Guard set up around this neighborhood because... you can't even believe this, but... there are looters. So there are people going into these areas and trying to get stuff, from people who have just lost everything in their whole house. But this neighborhood is right near Tinker Air Force Base, so there are a lot of military people, and there are a lot of guns, a lot of people that are gun owners. So they're really worried about looters going in and finding guns. So I go over to the neighborhood, and there's a cop standing at the end of my mom's street, and I'm like, hey, listen, my grandma lives down there. And he's like, well, you can't go in. We're not letting anybody in. I'm like, my grandma lives right there. I mean, it was like 20 houses down, maybe not that far, maybe 15 houses. He's like, I'm sorry. He's like, I understand, I get it, but I can't let you in. Your grandma could come out here and meet you and take you back. I'm like, well, her phone doesn't work, and my mom lived on the other side of the neighborhood. So I had to get this way before I could get there. And so he wouldn't let me in. And so I drove over, and there was a insurance agency. So I parked there, and I went and I told the people, I said, hey, I got to walk down the street. I need to leave my car here. And they said, okay. So I went through the back of their place, and then there was a field, and then there was another field, and then there was a fence. And so I climbed the fence. So I was about 4 houses ahead of where the cop was. And so I hopped the fence, and I just started walking, and I just kept looking over my shoulder. And he saw me, and I saw him. He wasn't... willing to run down there after me, and I'm sure he could have caught me if he wanted to, but I had a pretty good lead on him, so I just kept walking. I went down there to my grandma's house, and she was okay, and then we went over to my mom's, and there was a National Guard who would not let us, and it was like we were at the corner of her house, like we were next to her yard, but we would have to go past this giant tank-looking thing to get to her driveway, and they wouldn't let us. And then my mom came out, and she's like, "They're okay," and it turns out she had been, letting the National Guard guys use her bathroom, and so they're like, "Oh, okay," and so they let us in. Believe it or not, the tornado, like a 7-10 strike in bowling, went right in between my grandma's house and my mom's house. So my mom's house was fine, except for up in the roof, like on the side of the roof, the flat part. I don't know what that's called. There's a term for that. But there was a 2x4 just sticking out of it, and it had come from someone else's house 2 or 3 houses away that had just exploded, and it had thrown the wood everywhere. And so the 2x4, like shooting, a spear, had just shot and stuck in the side of my mom's roof. But my grandma's house was okay. And then if you went about 3 houses down from her, then the houses just started looking like piles of rubble. And then after that, you couldn't even tell where the houses were supposed to be. It was just like, blocks of garbage, like a war zone, like a bomb had gone off and blown everything to bits. And then you started seeing piles of rubble again, and then 2 or 3 houses, and then my mom's house. So it literally went right in between them, and both of their houses were okay. My wife and I, once you were inside, you could get a pass. The National Guard people would give you a pass that would let you come and go. And the people that lived there, everybody got like 3 passes. So my mom gave me one of her passes, so I was able to leave and come back. And so I left and I came back later, and my wife came with me that time. We had my video camera and we drove around, and shot some video of driving around in the neighborhood just because it was so unbelievable. There was a car lot, a used car lot outside my mom's neighborhood, and all the cars were flipped upside down. There were trees that looked like they'd been burned, but it was because all the leaves and all the bark had been stripped off them from the tornado. I remember seeing there was a guy who had like a chest freezer, like one of those big freezers for your garage, that was pulled out in the driveway and spray painted on the side. It said, "Don't just look, help," because people were starting to drive through and take pictures and just be looky-loos, which is what I was doing too. But these people are out there with shovels, like going through piles looking for stuff or whatever. And also, I remember going out there weeks later, because a lot of times in these type of situations, the news comes in, they're like, "Oh, this is terrible, blah, blah," and 3 days later there's something else and the news, moves on. But these people were cleaning up this neighborhood for 6 months. And I remember seeing like signs, either like pieces of wood or on the sides of freezers or on the doors, where people had spray painted their address. And the reason was, when the insurance people would come out and look or whatever, but there were no addresses anymore. I mean, there were no mailboxes. There were no garages. There were just piles. So you couldn't tell what street you were on. You couldn't tell what the street number was, so people had to, basically put up their own address. And I mentioned this, I had this written down here, but it said, there's a quote from Wikipedia. It says, "In light of the fatalities that occurred under highway overpasses, the notion of them being safe areas was dismissed, and they were from then on considered to be one of the most dangerous places to be during a tornado." And so, yeah, that's definitely something that changed. My friend Tom was my manager at Pizza Hut for a couple of years. And my wife and I didn't know, I knew he had moved, but I didn't know where he had moved. Well, apparently he moved to Bridge Creek. And my wife and I were watching Discovery Channel or something like that one night, and they had a special on the May 3rd tornado, so we were watching it. And they had a film crew that were going out with first responders, the ambulance drivers, and they go out, and the EMTs, and they said they ran across this guy, and it was Tom, and it was the guy I worked with. I was like, "Hey, there's Tom," and they're talking to him, and I was like, "Well, that's crazy," so we decided to look up Tom. Well, I couldn't find him in the phone book or internet or anything like that, so we drove to Bridge Creek, and we went to this, it's a small town, and we went to this pub. And I was like, "Hey, we're looking for this guy." And I, said Tom. I gave his name, and somebody said, and I said, I just saw him on TV, and he's an old friend of mine, and apparently his trailer got destroyed. And someone said, "Oh yeah, he's they just built him a new house. A Habitat for Humanity built him a house, and it's, if you go down this street and there's a little house, and you'll see it." So we went down there and we found him, and Tom told me that he lived in a trailer previously in Bridge Creek, and he had been home with his 2 young daughters, and they were not really paying attention to the news, and then he heard winds, and he turned on the news. They said there's a tornado coming, and it's coming to Bridge Creek. And apparently where he lived in this mobile home, it was a little bit off the beaten path, and so when they left, they had to drive on this road about 5 miles before they got to town. So he said he got the girls, and they walked out, and he's looking down this road that's 5 miles, and he said, "I could see the tornado coming up the road." And he said, "I couldn't tell how far away it was, but it looked to me like it was on the road already. So he said, there's nowhere for me to go. He said, if I got in the car and drove, I'd just drive right into it. So instead, he got his daughters. He had them put on their bicycle helmets. He put them in the bathtub in the mobile home. He put a mattress on top of them. And he said the winds came up like they, were growing and growing and growing. And then he said it got quiet. And all of a sudden, he said every window in his house just exploded. Every window broke. And he said, suddenly, it picked up his mobile home and threw it. He said it felt like he was in the spin cycle of a dryer. And when he woke up, he was laying in a creek, and he heard his daughter crying. And so he got up from where he was and walked over to where she was. And when he found her, he said it was like... she was up against a tree, I think, and there'd been like a little stub of the tree, like a little stub branch that had stuck in her. And she ended up being okay, but she was stuck on this tree, and so he helped her. And when he bent over to help her, he just collapsed on the ground. He said his hip was just hurting him. So these EMTs, he's yelling, and they find the two of them, and the EMT says to him, don't move because your hip's broken. And he said, it's a good thing that you landed here by your daughter because you would not have been able to walk over here. And he said, I did walk over here. And he said, I landed over there and I walked here. And the guy told him, he said, you couldn't have, not with your hip like that. And he said, I did. I don't know what to tell you. And so I think that's one of those things where, we've all heard those stories of somebody lifting a car when their kid's trapped underneath there or something like that. I can't imagine the amount of strength and adrenaline I would summon if I thought one of my kids was hurt. But I think, that's what happened. And his other daughter, kind of like the mud baby, had landed in a soft, muddy area, and she was okay. And I know that his other daughter had some health issues for a long time. I think she'd hit her head. She had some brain injuries, and everything's okay now, but it was really scary. And I asked him, I said, I've always wanted to ask somebody this. I said, I always feel like, I know that the tornadoes are bad, but you see the aftermath, this rubble. I was like, were you able to find some of your stuff? And he said, Rob, I was not able to find my house. He said, literally, we had the clothes we were wearing. He never saw anything he owned ever again. And so, in fact, there was a couple of websites set up at the time because people 50, even up to 100 miles away were finding photographs and things, because when the tornadoes had hit, they had blown these people's picture albums and photos and things. And so people were finding other people's photos. They would post them online, and people were trying to claim their old photos and stuff like that, which I think is kind of interesting, But he literally said he never saw anything he owned from that, And so it was just an amazing now. So we talked about the F scale, so F0 to F5. This tornado, the May 3rd, 1999 tornado, was off the chart. Literally, it was off the scale. And so a few years later, they changed to what they call now the EF scale. It's the enhanced scale, and they take some different things into consideration now. They've shifted, but one of the big changes they made is that for the F5 or an EF5, there is no top level for the wind anymore. So anything that's bigger than 300 or whatever, it doesn't top out, because this May 3rd tornado, like I said, it was so unbelievably large that it was just off the chart. Another change that they made after the May 3rd, 1999 tornado is they began using GPSs and geolocation to track people's storm shelters. Now, before then, when you bought a storm shelter, it was your job to call the local fire department and register it. So I would say I live at 1313 Mockingbird Lane, and I have a storm shelter. So after the storm, they would send somebody out to check on you. If nobody's heard from you or whatever, they would have a list of all those. Well, when they started going into places like Bridge Creek or Stroud or Moore that had been completely devastated and there were no addresses, they couldn't find people's home addresses to find these storm shelters. So now what local fire departments will do is they will come out to your house and mark it on their GPS map. And so they will take the coordinates, and if there is a storm in your area that is a devastating storm like this one was, they will, be able to find you, because nobody wants to be trapped for days under, their house when it has fallen on top of your storm shelter. So I think the biggest thing about this tornado is it made people take tornadoes seriously again. And that's, and maybe I'm just speaking for myself. I can't speak for everybody, but I know before then I would always hear like, oh, there's a tornado coming. Let's go make some popcorn. Let's go out on the bench and watch it come, or this, that. And this thing made me afraid of tornadoes. This made me not afraid, but aware and cautious, and cognizant of the damage and the destruction that they can cause. It forced me to take them. It made me respect them and their power. So, at the end of that special, and I'm going to pull out one more clip here.
We hope we never see another day like May 3rd, 1999.
We hope we never see another day like that again. But unfortunately, we did. And it happened over a couple of days in May, again, May 19th and May 20th in 2013, a couple of years ago. In May 19th, 2013, a EF4 tornado hit Shawnee, Oklahoma. That's where my coworker and buddy Johnny lives. And everybody thought that was terrible. And then we all came to work the next day. And on May 20th, an EF5 hit Moore, Oklahoma. And it came through. Normally tornadoes hit, I don't know why. I guess if you've ever driven across country, I drive everywhere. I just told you I just drove to D.C. And I'm amazed at how much open space there is. You might drive, once you get out of the city, you might be half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour before you see a large city. There's a lot of nothing out there. So a lot of times when tornadoes come, they don't hit civilization. They don't hit towns and cities and things. Part of that I think is probably just because the odds, like the odds are you're not going to hit something like that. But, when it does, it's devastating. And, so on May 20th, 2013, a EF5 tornado came through and it hit Moore, Oklahoma. Now, the other one that I talked about, remember it was 1.5 miles wide at one point, or a mile wide, and it destroyed 8,000 homes. The May 20th, 2013 tornado destroyed 13,000 homes. It killed 24 people, and I've had to edit this part because I've tried this about 5 times. I get choked up every time, but 7 of the people that were killed were children, and they were inside an elementary school, and they had taken shelter inside the school, and the school was destroyed by the tornado, and there were reports that the kids were actually trapped and may have drowned down inside it. It was bad. It was pretty bad. And again, I want to remind you that, when these things come through like this, there's no cell phones. Cell phones stop working because the towers get taken down. The landlines, your landline phones, your cable, those wires get busted. And so you lose your phone, you lose your cable, so you have no television, and then people lose power. And there were, during that storm, 30,000 people lost power.
All the homes down there in one neighborhood, he said, are just wiped out.
He said the whole neighborhood is wiped out.
It's a terrible situation. It is very reminiscent of what we saw May 3rd, 1999. We didn't think we'd see another one of these, certainly not so soon, and it's turning into a nightmare scenario. This tornado that touched down at 2:52 down around Newcastle and has tracked across southwest Oklahoma City's Moore area, now into the Mid-Dell area. It's just terrible. Let's go back over to Gary real quick.
All right, Gary. We understand that we can toss it out to Michael Konopasek, who is live outside of Briarwood Elementary. Michael, give us an update.
South Santa Fe and 141st Street. We saw this thing coming in. It was a huge tornado dumping debris throughout this area. I'm going to step out of the way and show you the scene right now. People are going into this neighborhood where there is complete destruction. Tears in people's eyes as they see this scene. It is absolutely an amazing scene. And a Moore police officer just told me just a short time ago that there is an elementary school that was hit. I asked if there were kids inside that elementary school. He said yes. So right now what you're seeing, parents in this area, tears coming down their faces, going into this area, not sure what the heck they are going to see when they get into this neighborhood. That tornado is absolutely huge. You should have seen that debris. I'm sure you saw it on Sky News 9 HD and the Storm Chasers. And so that's what's going on right now here at Moore, South Santa Fe and 141st Street. Kelly and Amanda.
All right, Michael Konopasek for us in the West Moore area. Folks, what a terrible scene. A lot of these folks are probably rushing down the street to get up close to the elementary school that has been hit. And that's Jim Gardner. Jim, can you tell us, if you can hear us, Jim, where are you?
Okay, I got him.
Jim, go ahead, buddy.
Hey, Kelly, you got me?
Talk to us. Where is this?
Okay, this is a school right now. We're in heavy rain. That's why, we're in heavy rain. But I can tell you one part of the school looked like it traveled right down. It's possibly the gymnasium or whatever. Is Rich, where are you pointing? Come on back this way. Come to the right. Okay, there's the part of the debris path. Okay, there's the gymnasium, Kelly. Do you see what I'm talking about? We got a lot of heavy rain, so the picture's going to be kind of distorted because we got so much rain here. But it went right down. Looks like that may be part of the gymnasium or something, but it tracked right through the center of that, and just wiped it out.
Jim,
There's a huge debris trail. It's just reminiscent of May 3rd here. We got buses out in front of the school. As we pan up a little bit, we got buses to your left there, Rich. We got buses in front of the school. We have kids standing under the awning right there. As he zooms in, you can see the kids standing underneath the awning right there on the right-hand side of the screen. So, again, it looked like it just took the gymnasium right down through the center of it there, Kelly and Amanda. And just hopefully we didn't lose any lives here. But, boy, it just tore through it like a truck just run right through the center of it. And there's just either what direction I look, it's just all the houses are gone, Amanda and Kelly. Yep. They are absolutely gone.
It was a massive storm. I was at work when it came through, and a coworker of mine lived in Moore, and he said he had to get home. And so, in the I didn't tell you this, but in the May 3rd one and the 1999 one, there was a lady I worked with, and she lived in Moore. And she was at work, and she was driving home, and she saw the tornado going across the interstate in front of her, and she pulled over. She got up under an underpass like we thought we were supposed to do. And she had on these high heels, and she told me, she said, "Rob, those were my favorite high heels, my favorite shoes that I owned." And I climbed up there, and I busted the heel off. And she said the whole time I was up there, I was pissed off that I had just ruined my favorite shoes. And when everything passed, I went home and got in my car and drove home, and my home was gone. So she said, not only did I lose everything I owned and all my stuff was done, but I had the clothes on my back and a pair of high heels, one of which was broken. Which that was a funny outlook on that. So my buddy Howard that I work with, we went down to the basement. We just recently, a year or so ago, we moved to a different building at work, and right below us is the gym. So whenever there's a tornado warning, we're supposed to go, to the basement of the building. And so we went down to the basement, and there's the gym. So we go down to the gym, and they have all the, the big flat screens where people work out and you can watch TV, and they have the news on it. And they say, hey, it's headed towards Moore. And they say, this particular intersection. And Howard says, not only is that where I live, but my kid, he walks home from school. So my kid's at home by himself, so Howard took off, and then we didn't hear from Howard for like 2 days, because all the cell phones went out, phone was out, you're trying to get a hold of somebody and you can't get over there because they shut down the area. And you don't really want to drive in those areas because, when a house explodes, when damage like that is done, I mean, there's nails in the road, you're going to get flat tires. It's going to tear up your tires or you're going to get somewhere. There's power lines down. You don't want to drive, or get out around power lines. It's, or there could be trees blocking the way. So you can't really drive in those areas. So we're just trying to call Howard for days, and finally he was able to get to an area. He was that area where he couldn't get out of his neighborhood, and so finally they got these trees out of the roads and stuff, and he was able to get out. But so there was like 2 days where we couldn't even get a hold of this guy, and his stuff ended up being okay. But there was this lady that we used to see all the time. She's this tall lady, and she had red hair, and she worked in the building we worked in, and we would see her all the time we'd go down in the morning and go get coffee. And she took shelter in this 7-Eleven that was pretty close to Howard's house. And the 7-Eleven got hit. They went inside the freezer because they thought that would be safer. And the freezer was not really like reinforced or something. And the roof caved in and it killed him. It killed her and somebody else who had taken shelter in this 7-Eleven. So, this lady that worked in my building, just never saw her again. Tornadoes, man. Like I said, the odds of you ever seeing one or being directly affected by one are really, really small. But when it does happen, it's and it seems like over the last few years there's been several big ones. So we definitely, if you live in the Midwest, you definitely learn to respect the power of a tornado. I found this website on Weather Underground. It's wonderground.com and WN or WUN, like underground, but it's wonderground.com. And it is a list of tornadoes, fact versus myth. And I thought this is kind of interesting. This is something I heard as a kid. It says, when a tornado warning is issued, you should open all the windows in your house. That is a myth. And the thought behind that is that if you open the windows, that it would equalize the pressure in your house and that you would have less damage, or maybe the wind would go through there. But first of all, it has nothing to do. It will not affect tornado damage on your house at all. And also this mentions that it wastes time that you could be spending, getting into a shelter or whatever. And so, that is a myth. That will not save your house. Tornadoes do not hit big cities. Well, if you've been listening, you know that is a myth as well. And there's some examples here. The first one, it says, for example, in 1999, an F5 tornado tore through Oklahoma City. That's true. In 2007, an F2 tornado went through Atlanta, Georgia. So there are definitely examples of them hitting large cities. But like I said, the odds of it is that it will hit a non-populated area. So that's just, it's odds. It doesn't have anything to do with actually how, a tornado travels. Tornadoes have picked up objects and people and set them down without damage or injury. Well, we know that is true, and it is, in fact, it says it is a fact. And there have been examples of that. However, it does say that you wouldn't want to try it. And I agree. I agree with that. If you have your odds are you're going to get hurt. So it's kind of like saying, well, there are people that have survived parachute jumps and their parachute fails, but I don't recommend it, A few other listed on here. Tornadoes don't happen in the mountains. That is a myth. Tornadoes won't cross over rivers or other bodies of water, and that is also a myth. That is has been proven before that it doesn't really matter what's underneath it or in front of it, tornadoes, because the storm is from above. So I don't know why people wouldn't think that it wouldn't cross a body of water. The best place to be during a tornado is in the southwest corner of your basement, and it says that is a myth. Now, that was something that I had always heard, too, because the idea was that the storms will approach from the southwest, and so you would get in that corner so that as it went over, it would do the damage behind you. But really, as I said, the best spot is to be in the center, the lowest level of your home, and away from windows. And then the last one on here, I'll let you answer. It says, if you're in your car on the road when a tornado is approaching, hiding under an overpass is your safest bet. And we know, based on the fatalities that we saw in the May 3rd, 1999 tornado, that is a myth. It does note here that the reason has to do with the way tornado winds could potentially interact with the bridge's structure. At the very least, taking shelter under an overpass puts you at a higher elevation with no protection from debris and wind. There we go. We know that is a myth. I should mention the reason that I came up with this topic on a short notice is because just a couple of days ago we had tornadoes come through Oklahoma, and they came through Moore. Once again, it's the same spot. I tell you what, you could not pay me to live on that line through Moore where they go. They have come through multiple times and hit the exact same area, and I don't really know why. I don't know if it's by chance or if it's because the way the land is, or because people, I don't think buildings would affect it, but maybe just the lay of the land, that's where they track. But you couldn't pay me to live there. If you go through that area of Moore, just like my mom's neighborhood's the same way, there are a bunch of old houses. It's very, very noticeable. You go through her old neighborhood. She's moved since then, but there are old houses and then a bunch of new houses and then some old houses, and you could tell where they have just come in and had to rebuild entire neighborhoods. They had to do the same thing in Stroud and parts of Bridge Creek too. So, but that's life in the Midwest with tornadoes. Again, all this talk about them makes it sound like, it's something that happens every day. I would say that, a few times a year, tornado season is basically in the spring. So it starts around sometime in March and will go through May, sometimes into June, but that's about it. And so during those times, you have to pay attention to the weather. You have to do what the news forecasters say, watch where the storms are coming, and then you'll be safe. That wraps up another episode of You Don't Know Flack. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you'd like to send me feedback about this episode or any other episode of You Don't Know Flack, you can email me at robohara@robohara.com. Contact me on Twitter at Commodork. Follow the show on Facebook at facebook.com/You Don't Know Flack. That's all one word. Or leave me voicemail on the You Don't Know Flack podcast hotline at area code 405-486-YDKF. You Don't Know Flack is available from iTunes, Stitcher Radio, the You Don't Know Flack RSS feed, and through throwbacknetwork.net, your home for quality retro podcasts. If you'd like to hear more podcasts from me, check out my Commodore 64 themed podcast, Sprite Castle, at spritecastle.com, and Throwback Reviews at throwbackreviews.com. Both of these shows are also available at throwbacknetwork.net. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time on another episode of You Don't Know Flack.